Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of On Point. It is 4 p.m. on the East Coast. It is On Point, and with me are our astute, highly qualified, well-learned, well-informed panelists. With me is my co-host, Jimmy Eastman from the nation's capital. How you doing there, sir?
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Lots to talk about. Thank you.
Yes. Please do me a favor, Jimmy. Please share the show in our chat room so I can be able to send them out to my contacts. Dr. Booty, from across the ocean, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, Mr. Gaiman. Always great to be here.
Great. All the way from Houston, we got issues. Houston, we got issues. There's problem in Houston. Mr. Tawa, how you doing there, sir?
I'm doing very good. I'm glad to be here. I follow a couple of the discussion on other platforms on FOL, and I'm glad to be here to be part of the discussion today.
Great. Before we delve into our Liberian situation, I want to salute the blue boy from London, Chelsea. Today we did some damage. The Spurs came to town, and we told them who's who. Dr. Booty, how did your Arsenal do today?
Oh, Mr. Gaiman, I didn't realize that this was a sports show, right?
Oh, yes. I'm not an expert. When you win, it's a sports show. When you lose, it's not a sports show. Go ahead.
I'm not an expert in sports. I'm here to talk politics, Liberian politics in particular. So I'll leave the sports analysis to those who have the expertise.
Usually when you go to a real good game, Jimmy Eastman, and at the end when you lose it, your bank grumble, right? Then you say, I will take a draw. It's a draw. And people say, no. My man, not because you bank grumble me, it's a draw. You know about sports, and we're talking about sport. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we go on the international scene. The world is in turmoil to some degree. This morning we woke up to the overthrow of Assad in Syria. Mr. Eastman, I know this is a focus on Liberia, but what affects the rest of the world affects us in Liberia. So we'll take a few minutes to analyze what's going on in the Middle East, and then we'll transition into Liberia. What did you see? What's happening? And how did that come about, Mr. Eastman?
Well, it's been a long time now. The rebels have been resisting Assad's pedantic his grab on the country, and they have been fighting. And finally, we heard day before yesterday that they were in Damascus, and they yesterday they declared Damascus free, essentially driving out Assad from Syria completely. This this represents a new era, a new period. All this thing started with the Arab Spring a few years back, and now finally they've gotten rid of Assad, who is backed by the Iranian forces. So this kind of embarrasses the Iranians who've been backing up Hezbollah and the other remaining people in the Gaza Strip. So, what this will mean for our Lebanese friends in Liberia, if I make it, is trying to bring it home. Lebanon is hot, is terribly destroyed, and they really don't have anywhere to go. And before the Lebanese got to Liberia, it used to be Syrians. We used to call them the old people used to call them the Syrian man, and it became the Lebanese man. They're almost the same type of people. They're neighbors, right in the same zone. All both of them speak Arabic, so they're very very similar people. And uh, as far as the U.S. is concerned, this is a victory for them because, again, I said Assad was backed by Iran, which is a sworn enemy to Israel, and also an antagonist to the USA. So they claim a lot that they allow a lot of this thing to go on. They never, as much as they fight the terrorists in that zone, they never fought the rebels of Syria because the rebels were advancing against their enemy, which was Assad. So it's a big turning point. We will see how the rebels align themselves. That's what's going to be important. If how they align themselves now going forward to know exactly what will be their fate. But for many Syrians, this is a welcome news.
Great. Dr. Booty, you are in England there where you have a lot going on when it comes to the melting pot, the Middle East, Iranians, all of that. We see what's happening here. But some people are saying the demise uh, of uh, of Assad is the result of many things coming together, which is the occupation. Their main manufacturer, Russia, is occupied into a serious war, and then Iran, depending on Hezbollah, and they have formed the triumvirate in the area that Hezbollah has been destroyed in Lebanon by Israel, and all of that. They say it enhanced speedily the demise of Assad, and his whereabouts is unknown.
I think anyone who will draw conclusions like that will be correct in a way, because at the end of the day, we all know that the Russians in Syria, in Ukraine, are struggling. They've recently asked North Korea to send in troops to help them fight the war that's been going on for quite a while now. Obviously, even though the war in Syria started in 2011, it has been a bit quiet in the last couple of years because there haven't been a lot of movement on that front. And I think obviously Mr. Eastman, being our resident diplomat, has a good grasp of what's going on. To say that, look, obviously Iran has its own issues as well. They're trying to support Hezbollah uh, in Lebanon as they're fighting against the Israelis, and that makes it look. I think my biggest concern is when the United States, and I know you guys live in the US, gets involved in Middle Eastern or any kind of war, it always leaves the people on the ground in a worse situation than they were when the war started. We can look at their intervention in Libya, we can look at their interventions in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I think this is not going to be any different because the main rebel group, HTS, in Syria, is an offspring of Al Qaeda, right? And these guys will more likely than not want to implement a very stringent Islamic rule in Syria. And for a lot of Syrians, including Syrian Christians, it might not be as pleasant. And this could lead to a situation where we have another breeding ground for Islamic terrorists and things like that. So we have to be really careful. In terms, look, Assad wasn't the best, right? He had his own issues, but sometimes, not sometimes, every time the Americans get involved, we know that they leave behind a worse situation than this meant when they got involved. And I think the instability in the region helps the U.S. in a way. Again, for those of us who is a bit cynical, it means that they can have access to natural resources and the wealth of these countries without having to pay fair market value for them. So it's a shame to see a country going through what is going through for such a long time, to see people dying. Over 500,000 people died so far. What the future holds for Syria, I don't know. I know here in the UK, we've taken in quite a lot of Syrian refugees as well. And I don't know what's going to be like. So you might have an influx of refugees coming over that we will have to try and support along the way. But, we'll wait and see, unfortunately.
Mr. Tao, Lebanon has been a country that basically it's like a country in name only. It doesn't have a standing army, cannot defend itself. Its sovereignty has been basically leased to the Iranian. Remember, the Lebanese are mostly Sunni, and the Iranians are Shiites. Those are two different group of folk, different ways of worship. Everything is different. One is highly educated and technologically advanced, and the other is not. But here we are. Their godfather Iran made a mistake by trying to fight a far-front war. The Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Syria, all of these things, now that they have been hit by Israel and everything else, things are falling apart and everybody, all the other arms are falling. Now, what would that do for the Lebanese in Liberia? Are we going to see illegal influx of Lebanese in Liberia?
Okay. So thank you for asking these questions. First, I must declare here issues happening in the Middle East. I follow them. I understand a lot of them. I study them just for the sake of it, but I really don't have any real interest in it, in the sense that it's just like anything happening in Europe or in the West. I have no real interest in it. And the reason is because these two groups, as Africans, they are our everlasting enemies. These are the two people that destroyed Africa, African civilization, tormented us. The Arabs. Remember, when people talk about Egypt and Egyptians, and when they look at our relics and all of our artifacts and all of our African antiquity, they're looking at the Arabs that are there, and they're considered the Egyptians, but those are invaders. Those are Arab invaders that occupied those places. And for any meaningful African at some point, I will force both Europeans and Arabs back out of those places at some point so that we can reclaim our land. But so having said that, but what is going on in Iraq? I mean, in Syria, Dr. Booty just hit the nail on something that I was going to say. In spite of everything that is going on, there is one thing that I'm seeing. Here are these groups that are designated by the US as terrorist group, by the British as terrorist group, by France, by all these guys. But here is a terrorist group overthrowing a government. And I see celebration and I see celebratory or commentary and newscasting all over in the West. What that means is that the term terrorism is just a cover that is used because it don't mean anything as long as it work in the interest of the West so that they can continue their plunder. Like what you were saying here, that the booty concerning when the US or the West get involved anywhere, they leave it worse. It is not by accident, it is intentional. The goal is to destabilize everybody else so that if they maintain the hegemony, that is the reality. I've talked to many US experts, they wrote books on it, they discuss it all the time. So like when we say it here, it's almost like, oh, we hate the West. No, this is their foreign policy. One of the foreign policy point for Africa is that we want Africa without the people, without the Africans. So when you see wars and stuff from and the people die, it's not by accident. It's to degrade and denigrate your population so that you are weak enough and they can have access. So that is what we see going on. So that is not by accident. So the fact that I see all the celebration on all the Western media, but this is a terrorist group that is taking over. So when are they a terrorist group? When do you consider them to be terrorists? Is it when they do something that works in your interest? And if that is the case, who armed them? How did they gather so quickly over a short period of time? But look, if you look deeper in the background, it's deeper than what you are seeing here. Russia is not just because Russia is occupying Ukraine. No. The Russians, the Americans, the Turks, they all reached an agreement. If you remember, it was last month Assad went to Moscow. He was in Moscow. He came back. This is what happened. The war reached a stage. These guys, what is Russia, what is China, what is America, Britain? At some point, nobody's really on your side. It is all about interest. Isn't it Russia that was bumping these people? You know that they already reached an agreement before Assad could go to fly to Moscow. The Russian bases are going to be left intact. So everybody's negotiating with the same terrorists. But this is what we are seeing. So what we're seeing is just these guys, they're just playing out. What this means is that, because I mentioned it to a friend of mine, because this is the reason I'm mentioning this, Africa is in the same boat. You see people like Ibrahim Traore, and all these guys that took over in the Sahel region. They are trying for them to free their country from the grip of the imperialism and all of this stuff. Here is Russia showing up. And they're depending on them. But look, Gaddafi, China was one of the largest mining company in Libya. What did they do? They cut a deal with Russia and the US, and they agreed for them to go in and overthrow that guy and then destroy the country. So I'm scared and concerned for people like young brother like Ibrahim Traore and other people that are dependent on Russia, because at some point, if they cut a deal and America, Russia, China, all of them, if their interest can be intact, when they jointly exploit that area, they will get rid of whoever that is there.
Thank you.
Things will
Thank
go.
you. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Anthony C. Are you in Grand Crew or in Grand Bassa?
I just left Grand Crew. I just left Liberia. I'm here in the U.S. in my home, Minnesota.
Come on. Well, welcome. Let me turn this thing upside down to you. We are discussing Liberia. We are discussing international. Real quick before we go to the Liberian stuff, there are a series of international events that will affect Liberia, especially what just happened in Syria. Now, what happened in Syria and Lebanon, we know Liberia has a very weak immigration system where folks can come in as evidence to the Ebola and the COVID, where Lebanese were coming in 747 and just paying people and they come into the country. So you give us your idea with what's happening in the Middle East, especially Lebanon being destroyed, and we have a huge Lebanese community. How would this affect us immigration-wise?
I don't think it's going to affect us, Mr. Gibbon. They are very far from Liberia. Few may find their way to Liberia because they know that Liberia is very friendly to foreign nationals. As we know, there are Lebanese in Liberia who have been there for years now. And so the people of Lebanon are aware that Liberians are very receptive people. They might leave in their effort to find a safe place to stay. Some of them might go to Liberia. I don't see how it will affect Liberia in any negative way. I don't see that. The conflict itself in the Middle East, I don't like to talk about it. It's a waste of time, except that the human suffering is something we as Liberians can relate to. We had a devastating civil war, and the continuous conflict over and over in the Middle East. I can only say, look, it is something that we Liberians can relate to. I just hope they will not have to go through that all the time. But it's obvious that this is something that's not going to have an end. You can tell me when it started, and today we are still talking about it. It will cease. It will resume. They will kill women and children. It's just heartbreaking to see that. It's like there can never be an end to this conflict, and this is devastating for me who have experienced conflict.
Great. I think Mr. Sear brought, before we switch to our Liberian thing, brought a historical context. When you go all the way back to King, the king of Babylon, we are going all the way back. Yeah, we are talking about thousands of years of this era being in turmoil. One war after another. These are cousins. They've been fighting, and it has no end. Well, with that, my concern was that during the Ebola time and the COVID time, they were able to sneak a whole jet full of them into the country, and it was a big event where people who were not supposed to be in the country came in and bribed their way into the country. But anyhow, like he said, they have the resources, they have the finances. When they come, they can take care of themselves. Now, let's switch to Liberia. The Republic of Liberia is going through some serious stuff. And we're going to touch on some of them. I listened to this so-called renowned, the hero of the Unity Party, Mr. Gafoin, on one show last night when he was confronted about the economy. I was shocked at some of the answers he gave. He said Liberia is better because there are few Liberian dollars chasing the American dollar. The Liberian dollar has gained strength and challenging the US dollar. So to him, that was good. And someone said, how does that impact Makema downtown, down waterside? How does it affect her when Becca Rice was $3,400, now it's $3,500? Everything remained constant or gone up, and the value is dropping. He said, when you're in a hole, 20-foot hole, and it brings you up 2 feet, you will never know that you are getting out of the hole. He said, this is how we are looking at it. Liberia is getting better. That's his economic stand. So here we are now, with all this going on, we have a fight, a major constitutional crisis in Liberia. And this, on Friday, the Supreme Court ruled that whatever was not done legally cannot have a legal ending. If it was illegal to start, you cannot end it legally. You have to go back and do it right. And while for Nanti Kofa, we know very well, all the legal luminary agree that this was a victory for Fonati Kofa. Yet and still, there are a few folks on the other side that says they look at it differently and that nothing is going to change. I'm going to start with Mr. Sia. Mr. Sia, you just came from Liberia. You were there. In fact, you were in Grand Crew when the ball from Grand Crew won that case. How do you feel about it? How is this going? And how do you think this is going to end, Mr. Sia?
Well, that's also Sastam people.
Yes, Sastam people.
And that is true. I'm on Sastam, man. Uh, I have my own opinion when it comes to whether or not there will be any difference when Funati remains speaker. I don't think there will be any difference. He remaining speaker will not change anything for the better. Things will either deteriorate or probably remain as worse as things are right now. Funati has not brought any significant change to his own people of Southern, let alone the district he represents, and also to Liberia. He has been more about himself than anything in Liberia as a representative and as a speaker. This guy served as speaker for about 6 years, if I'm not mistaken. And there has, look, let me tell you something.
Deputy Speaker.
Deputy Speaker, thank you for that correction. If not 6 years, probably about 4 years of the 6-year period of CDC. Funati and I hail from Southern. There's a school that was built by Talbot. It's called Southern High School. That school, despite Funati being, for Funati serving as Deputy Speaker for about 4 years, that school remains the same. It is in complete ruin. And Funati is speaker. I don't know whether there has been money even placed in the budget for that school, Southern High School. That school serves the people of Pickling says, the people of Nifu, the people of Betu, the people of Daiko. You don't know those times. I know those times I'm talking about. So Southern has been almost like the center of enlightenment in that part of Grand Cru County. People coming from everywhere coming to Southern. The Catholic Church that we have today in Liberia started from Southern. So the Catholic school started teaching people that. So Southern was a place where many people in Grand Cru went to get education. People came as far as Barclayville, where we have the capital today. So Funati has full knowledge of the role Southern has played when it comes to education. And he served as Deputy Speaker and now Speaker, even just by being a representative to see that high school in his own town is a disaster the way it looks. That alone disqualified this man from being speaker, but we are talking about constitutionality, legality, and law here. When it comes to the law, the manner in which politically these guys have been trying to oust Funati, the law does not support them. Constitutionally, I disagree that they have succeeded constitutionally or legally. No, I disagree. But it's a political fight that they have an upper hand, talking about majority bloc, and they are using political muscles. It's a house of politics. It's the place where partisan politics, supersede any other thing, unfortunately. But when it comes to law, one can argue that the ruling by the Supreme Court favors Funati because the majority bloc did not fulfill all of the constitutional processes, let alone talking about due process, to remove him. I will submit on that note.
Thank you. Great point. Let me go to the diplomat here. Mr. Eastman, this at the beginning of this fight, the so-called majority bloc keeps saying we have separate equal branches of government, and the Supreme Court has no right, no power over us to intervene. And out of the ruling, if you look at the ruling that I'm looking at, the first question that was answered was the Supreme Court saying, we are the final arbiter of law in this country. We have jurisdiction in the Court of Records, Court of Non-Records, over any institution and all institutions in the country as it relates to the constitutional processes. Mr. Eastman.
It sounds like we've beaten this horse almost to death, but let's continue. My understanding of that ruling was, yes, one, the Supreme Court does have jurisdiction over any laws and regulations, and advised the legislature, I will say both groups, that anything that is done beyond one's authority, excuse me, is ultra virus. So that means making it illegal. So that's the first thing they say. So you can't do anything under your authority. You don't have the authority to do it. You cannot do that. That might be referring to appointing new chairmans. Excuse me. Appointing new people, voting in a new speaker without properly removing the past. So they advise you strictly. Anything you do, and you don't have the full authority to do it, is illegal. And it also said that they can't force members to, go to session. There's no law regarding that. So it's nothing that the Supreme Court can do about it, but they should need to do it in their own under their own authority. They need to resolve that issue and come together. But I like what Brother Sia was saying just now. What are these people doing if they can't even do something for their own home? What are they doing? You hear them about these exorbitant salaries, these all kinds of amenities like free gas slip, allowances, housing. Now we hear they're going to be getting $150,000 to return. What have they been doing with the money if they can't fix one of the most important guarantees for advancement for their people, which is an education, and they can't even do that? What are they doing? I think we Liberians need to sit back and realize we have not been doing nothing for this country for some time now. When are we going to change? When are we going to do something that your children, my children, and the children's children can benefit from tomorrow? Is it only be about today and riding big cars and being called honorable? Is that all we care about? So it's disheartening that these people with all their clout, all their pay, because these guys are more highly paid than anybody ever in Liberia. Legislature were not making this kind of money what these guys are making. With all that, you want to tell me you still can't do nothing for you? So I believe this is not over. And I believe they are setting a dangerous precedent. But we'll see how they behave. If they go ahead with this, everybody calls renegade activity, acting on their own, after you lose an election, you simply get into a group and say we're not going to abide by the results of the election.
Great.
Then why subscribe to the democracy?
Great.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Mr. Tao. I think this falls right within your purview. You said the foundations of this nation is rotten, and there's nothing we can do to correct the foundation, to correct whatever we do. Once the foundation is crooked, it's crooked. And the Liberian Supreme Court back you up on this and say, how do you make a law that says you can compel somebody to go back to work, but not how? So the Supreme Court said, you have it within your clause that you can compel someone, but you never gave us the roadmap as to how we can compel somebody. Do you arrest them? Do you suspend them? Do you go to their homes and bring them? You left it undone. And what you didn't do in your house, in the Constitution, we cannot divine that, because that would be we would be also stepping beyond our bounds. I know you loved it, Mr. Tao.
Yeah. Okay. So in the first place, I read the ruling, and then I read those articles in the Constitution. Then I read some part of the rules of the House on how they function. The Supreme Court really did not make any ruling that is supposed to really lead to anything. The Supreme Court said a lot, but said nothing. And it's not because the Supreme Court is not competent when it comes to this, but just like I said here, because the way they designed this government is that Everybody run their own thing. No one else here can tell this person exactly what to do. So, like, okay, so they say anything that you did that was not legal. Okay, so let's just say, and the only thing that is in that, it is going right for them to appoint another speaker when they did not get the 49. Okay, but the Supreme Court cannot tell them that they don't want the speaker, because in the rules of the House, they can choose and say, because the speaker is just somebody that is just appointed, he has equal power just like them. He's just a person that, based on the courtesy of his peers, that look, hey, you're going to be the one that chair each time we have a meeting. That is all that it is. And if a majority of that group decide that they don't want you, it don't have to be the 49. It once they're more, and because in order for the speaker to preside, he has to have quorum. That is what is in the Constitution. If he can't muster quorum, then he can't preside. So the group that have quorum, that say they don't want him, they're presiding in the rule of the House. They themselves said that if they come together and they have quorum, which is more than the group that is out, they can designate someone from among them to act as speaker.
Mr. Taiwo, a point of correction here. The analogy you are making that the people elected him so they can do that, that's not when you are elected. You are imbued with certain authority. And to take that away from you, there is a process. Like in this country, impeachment. You elected the president. If you don't want the president anymore, you have to go through the process of impeachment. You have to start that process in the House, and then it has to be tried in the Senate. And if it passes both houses, the president is removed. Yeah, that's the same process. So you can't say because when you are elected, also we can do whatever we want. That's not how it works.
No. Look at what happened here. The only place that they're wrong is for them to go ahead and try to elect a speaker because they didn't reach the number. But okay, so the Supreme Court rule, the Supreme Court cannot tell them to go back to session. They determine that. They decide that we are majority black, we are not going to go. What happened? They who are the majority black, they can go ahead and continue to have session. Fonati does not have the number. So look, Fonati need to go. Look, for me, he need to just resign. His colleagues, listen. Look at what's happening here. They do this stuff corrupt way. Besides, let's look at the law. Is one aspect of it. The country is going to be shut down for a long time. I mean, the legislature, which I think it should be shut down, and they shouldn't pay them, because I was just looking at some numbers here. Just the vehicles alone, just the representatives, it's about around $3.8 to $4 million a year to buy them vehicle. Look at the gas slip that they get. It's almost $3 million a year that they give them just for gas slip. When you're talking about phone card, you can estimate somewhere maybe close to $1 million or so. Just these are benefits. I don't know what they gave them for living expense, but just this one group here hold the country hostage. That House of Representatives legislature, some of the things that we are talking about, yes, they need to be dissolved. The rules we need to look at the Constitution. Look, the country is set up wrongly. The Labra have laws on the book that cannot be enforced. Let me just move a little bit. The asset recovery. They sat here, they wrote a law that you must declare your asset. But they didn't say if you don't declare what's going to happen to you. It's voluntary. And if you choose not to, you just choose not to.
Thank you.
Just like the constitutional stuff. So that's one of the law. But no, wait. So as much as the Constitution is vague on those things, and that was not an accident.
To a point, Joe, the assets recovery, they're talking about the code of conduct. The code of conduct law of Liberia is the one that requires that officials should declare their asset. At first, when they passed the law, there were no accountability measure embedded in that law. They've added that. They revised it.
When?
It is the executive that is not enforcing that. When one fails to declare their asset, the executive can take action against any such individual. And the actions that can be taken are listed. That person can be suspended. That person's salary can be withheld. The executive branch of government, in this case, President Walker can do something about it. It's just that he has chosen not to. Instead, he's begging them to do so.
Great.
So I didn't know that. Thanks for the clarification.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lance, so I can go to Dr. Booty.
Okay, so but that is where we are. But like for me, when it comes to Fonati, I stand. For me, the reason I don't really care about the whole fight in the house is the same point that my brother C made. All the guys are corrupt. Fonati was the one that was just pushing them for go and rock keke because they needed the $45,000. So if you end up fighting for so-called constitutional stuff, but you end up fighting for the criminal interest.
That's just
so that
our
he can
system.
continue in office.
That's
For
our
me,
system.
that's the problem.
That's our system. Dr. Booty, we are now at a quagmire. Where do we go from here? Where does Nigeria go from here?
Yeah, first of all, let me use my platform to congratulate our brothers and sisters in Ghana on their elections. I believe that they're going to have their first female vice president in Professor Jane Nana Opoko Ayiman. So congratulations to Ghana. Look, I think Mr. CA and Mr. Tao are mixing things up, and I think confusing the Liberian people in terms of what we need to be focusing on. The entire issue here with regards to 43 members of the of the House of Representatives deciding to hold unlawful sessions, right? Elect a new speaker, receive from the executive branch of government the budget, so on and so forth. It's a legal matter, right? It's a matter that is grounded in our constitution. The Supreme Court, every Liberian who can read, you don't have to be a lawyer, every Liberian who can read and comprehend can read the Constitution, Article 33 and Article 49. They're clear. You, as the House of Representatives, set your own rules on how you elect your executive or your officers. And you have to abide by those rules. You can even go further and say I think it's Article 26 or Article 20 that talks about the due process. It's clear. There is not an issue. Look, whether Fonatiko Fanan pay horse in Sastan, whether he gave money to somebody in Sastan, that's not the issue at hand. Whether 43 people did this of that, the issue at hand is it lawful that 43 members of the of the House of Representatives will decide to meet, costing the Liberian people over 500,000 every month in salary, right? Those 43, that's 500,000 we're giving them every month in salary. They're meeting on their own, doing things that does not benefit the Liberian people. Is it lawful? The Supreme Court has come out and said no. Everything you do when it comes to sitting, that's what the Supreme Court said, that is outside of the intention of Article 33 and Article 49 is ultra virus. It means you get authority to sit. The speaker has to preside. If you want to remove the speaker, you have your rules. You voted on these rules. Nobody tie you. You say, oh, for could he bribe? No. You were not forced. The people try to bribe people recently, and some people came out and said, oh, they want bribe us. When Fonati tried to bribe you, so they say, Fonati want bribe me. Who tell you to take Fonati bribe to vote for him? You finish voting for him. The rule says if you want to remove Fonati Kofa, there has to be a session of the legislature that Fonati, has to preside over by law. And then in that session, you present, look, our petition or whatever you call it, to remove the speaker on grounds of A, B, C, and D. And then you vote 2/3, 49. If the 2/3 don't reach, you'll leave it. You'll go back to doing the work. Whether you like him, whether you don't like him, you have to stick with him because the rules are the rules. Look, I have said, Mr. Gaiman, from the day that I was invited to join this program in January or March or whenever it was, that this president, right, our president that we have now is very lawless. I remember my brother Elvis Morris even said that at some point he was even he was looking at things to say that Boakai is more lawless than John Weah were hurting him small. Because this president is so lawless. We've seen what happened with LTA. We saw what happened at Central Bank. This president is so lawless. Everyone who now supports him believe that they can be lawless as well, and nothing will come out of it. And that is the issue here. What are the men pay school in Sastan? In pay school in Sastan? That's irrelevant. The law is the law. The Constitution is clear. There is no session that is lawful of the House of Representatives that the Speaker does not preside over. The only time the Deputy Speaker can lawfully preside if the Speaker is absent, and never has Speaker Ekofa been absent. So everything these guys have done has been unlawful. Let's stick to the issue. You can hate Fonati. I don't know Fonati Kofa from nowhere. Me, I'm from Sano. I'm not from Sasta. Right? At the end of the day, you can hate him, you can disagree with his policies, but the rules are the rules. The rules are clear. You voted for them, you stick with them. The fact that you're not, and the last thing I'll say is, look, these guys are so stupid, right? And forgive my language. They're demonstrating the level of their how much they're idiots, that a simple and very basic ruling by the Supreme Court, they're claiming victory, right? The Supreme Court is telling you all the thing you've been doing is unlawful. Then they say we won the case. How can we trust these idiots to make laws for us when they don't even look? I know ultra virus, Mr. Gaiman. I know it. When the thing came out, I went on Google. I read, oh, okay, so that's what ultra virus means. Okay, yeah. So now I know what ultra virus means. You telling me that these guys were paying $7,500, excluding gas slip, excluding scratch card, excluding all the other benefits, ain't able to go on their phone and type ultra virus on Google to understand that the Supreme Court ain't gave up victory, and they're running around here with their idiots talking about the win. This is the mess that the Liberian they rescue team that they brought, that they rescue, they can't rescue or to mess everything up. So don't worry about whether Punatina base school or in base school. These guys are acting illegally, and thank God the Supreme Court ruled logically, and that's what we need to stick to.
Good, great. Mr. Sir, land us on there so we can go to the second one. Where does Liberia go from here?
You know, Budi said
because you got investment in the country. I have investment in the country. And those of us that got substantial investment in the country, we got to be sitting on edge because there's no rule of law.
And that is concerning. But I know that there are foreign nationals in the country who are doing well when it comes to investment. So we Liberians should participate in a discussion of the rule of law, and we should advocate that the rule of law, remains on course in Liberia, irrespective of whatever administration we have. And but to come to the point, Dr. Budi, I'm not messing things up. I separated the 2 points I made. Funanti, his responsibility to his constituent and Liberian people as a lawmaker. And then this legal matter. Those are the two things I spoke on. Now, I don't know why you're trying to say that, trying to confuse things then, but let me come to the whole issue. I said, and I'm going to say it again, legally, Franti has now been removed as the Constitution requires. This battle did not give him due process. The Supreme Court ruling is very clear. I agree with you, Dr. Bodi. They said the action of the so-called majority bloc is ultra-virus. If you look at ultra-virus, it's a Latin phrase, and it can be translated to mean beyond your powers. So they have gone beyond their powers. First of all, let's talk about Article 49. It is the speaker, who is elected by them, and the speaker must preside. The speaker is there. So let him preside. First of all, they can't even get the 49 needed to remove the man. They're trying to force the man, just as previous uh, legislative body in the past did it to Tyler, they did it to Snow, and maybe some other people. I think, or Asa Yinambo suffered similar political suffocation. That's how he left. This is what they want to do to Franti. They don't have the number. So this thing here, this fight here, it is not a fight intended to correct the mess that they have on their hands at the legislature or at the House of Representatives. It is about power. It was about what committee, and this is what the fight is about. And it is sickening that these people are being paid very well and they are very much unproductive. Let me share something with you that will make you laugh. I was driving between the executive mansion and the legislature, the Capitol. And guess what I saw in the yard of the Capitol? I saw men with chapias, I will call it in Liberia, cutting grass. Men cutting grass with chapias in the yard of the Capitol building. They don't have a mowing machine to cut the grass. And these are the people who being allotted, or this is a body of government that receive the highest allotment. If you look at the three branches of government, they get the highest. And now they have people in the yard using chapia to cut grass. And I shook my head. I said, nothing's going on in this country. So they are wrong. They didn't remove Franti legally. The Supreme Court ruling is clear. They have gone beyond their powers. And so I don't see why they're interpreting that as a victory. If anyone should claim any victory, it should be Franti, because you are not being given due process. The man is still dead. You are allowing another person to preside. I don't see how they go around this thing. It's just that they're holding the country hostage, to be honest.
10 seconds, Mr. Gateman. Mr. I did not say you didn't demarcate the two issues. I was saying that the whole issue about the SASTAM was irrelevant to the conversation. Whether he based school, whether him based school was not relevant here. The removal from the illegal removal or the attempt to remove him, it's not relevant to what he's done in his district. Because we can accuse all of the representatives of that if we want to. Most of them haven't done anything in their district either.
Great. Mr. Eastman, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
It's okay, going in and out.
I'm here.
Okay. Final thought on this here. In this country, in the United States, when our houses, when the government is about to shut down, usually the president will call or walk across and call his partisans and say, listen, let's compromise here. We cannot afford to have the country shut down. And usually that will avert a shutdown. In Liberia, I am saying all President Boyka has to do is call his partisans, his alliances, call them and say, gentlemen, the year is about to end. We have a wasted 12 months. Listen, let's get back to status quo. Let's start over and let's get to work on 2025. Joseph Boyka, it looks like he's thriving in chaos. He enjoying this because there is no oversight going on. No oversight, which is the main responsibility of the legislature, Mr. Eastman.
If he's enjoying it, then I'm surprised. I think what is brewing is something that can lead to an eventual collapse, like Mr. Tao always saying, an eventual collapse of that system. You see, it's one thing to have a system, but when you are not abiding by the rules and regulations of that system, then you surely know you want to defeat it. If by right, if the executive was, not for what's going on, I would have him appeal to the people and say, look, we need to expel these people who don't want to go to work and who meeting all by themselves. They need to be expelled unless elect new people. These people, everybody been saying it. They're not doing any benefit for us. So what gives them any magnitude in our business? Then they have not been successful, and they are shown where their interests lie, which is in greed and power. Okay, so we made a mistake. We elected people who are not responsible to Liberia, who greed exceeds their interest in the country, their love for the country. We need them removed. We should get rid of all of them. They're not helping us. So, but you got to rally the people. The people have to be led by a leader who would open their eyes and say, these people are not helping us. Yeah. The social greedy business, they won't be on committee. Why won't be on committee? The mayor expose it so they can eat the money, so they can go behind the people, their budget, and take money from there. It is exposed. They have exposed themselves to us. Why are we keeping them? It is mind-boggling for me. It is completely mind-boggling that we allow somebody to admit to their stealing and the corruption and keep them. What's wrong? Then if someone can do this, then maybe there's something wrong with us, that we will allow this to happen. I want to ask any one of you guys, because most of you are in the States, all of you, what can you think any kind of Speaker of the House here can get up and admit to corruption of his fellow men, and by now none of them being investigated? Do you think it can happen? But we have no nerve. We have no spine. Either that or something else wrong. Maybe we're still traumatized from the war. But why are these people not being brought up for investigation? And so when you talk about the executive,
Mr. Eastman, let me push back on that now, because when this thing started, there was a gentleman, Mr. Collins, that was a whistleblower. He blew the whistle, and the LACC came and they said they called a massive press conference that they have seized the occasion and they were investigating the bribery in this house. Whatever happens to that?
Exact. This is what I'm saying. That when you ask about the executive, I was just going to land, because, and that is the executive's responsibility to make sure these things are being investigated and punishment is exacted on those who are culpable. But that's not happening. So when you tell me about executive, it's apparent that executive is not properly functioning for us. It's the same thing again. None of them are doing anything for the Liberian people. So that's the story.
Thank you.
So what are we left? What are they leaving us to do when our back against the wall? What are they leading us to do? It's a tragic story.
Mr. Tower, let's transition to number 2 here. You can answer. We are talking about the present budget that was presented. The budget for development around the country, and it goes to Southside High School, all the projects, all 73 districts. When the previous government last year, they had $11.8 million for legislative projects around the country. This government came in and you guys cut it from almost $12 million to $4.7 million. Their rationale is, by doing these projects around the country, you will empower people whose districts some of these people will be coming from to go against them. So they would rather suffocate the country than bring development, although somebody may come and challenge them. I read this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mr. Tao, you take 2 minutes.
Okay. So first, before I go to that, I just wanted to say something for like 10 seconds. Liberia as a country was set up wrongly. Everything that was set up was not set up to work. If the body function like this, if there is an appendix on the body, what is the hand or the finger? If that is going to cause damage to the body have a way of starving that thing out to where it get paralyzed or it rot and it fall off. One thing that we need to do, the Constitution of Liberia need to be looked at. This Constitution was put together without considering the organic rules and laws in the country. They didn't go around for them to talk to our people, talk to the chiefs, because you see, the thing is an imperialistic stuff. They felt that because they're Western or could speak English or French or whatever they could speak, that they brought this imperialistic mindset that the vast majority of the country were going to be left out. They were going to determine something. That is why we are here talking about the other word is Latin. The other word, are we Latin? Are we Greek? Are we Greek? Are we French? We are making reference to those things. They didn't even consult none of the people. And when they came to work on that in 1986, it was the same thing. So that the legislature need to be completely dissolved. The legislature is not needed in that country. We have enough laws on the book, okay, to govern. If they have concessions, the budget every year, Liberia Constitution should be set like this. It should be based on referendum. Everything is a line item. Hey, we put on here, we want to give the representative 45,000 so they can buy a vehicle. The country will vote against it or vote in favor of it. If it passed, they get that. We're going to give them strike card. The presidential area going to get 18 million. And then the counties are going to get 100,000 each. Vote. That it happened once a year. It's a very simple process. Okay? Let us, it can work. But let us look at stuff that way, because the legislature hold this country hostage. These guys, you can't do anything to them. Anything that's supposed to remove them, they determine you have to write it, you have to come to them, they have to preside over it, they have to agree with it. It is wrong. It will never work. Okay, so I just want to clarify that. But look, when it comes to the budget, the country development fund, in the first place, none of this stuff was meant to really work. We don't have, where is the development plan of the country for which we are allocating money? What plan are we following when we allocate this money? How are we even coming with a budget? They just decide that, oh, the other place should receive this, the other one should. What projects have been earmarked? What is it that we are trying to achieve? The 6-year plan that within 6 years for Grand Bassa, we are going to build an oil refinery, we're going to expand the port, we're going to do this. So because of this, and with this company is going to come there, is going to open this much area, so we're going to allocate this for that development fund over the next 6 years. We don't have any of those. So the development fund thing is a joke. That is why it's never worked. Then why is the development fund being taken handed to representatives? I remember a cousin of mine. I was in Liberia in 2017 when the election was coming. He was trying to run. So I met with him. He called. He said, "Man," and I said, "But you are not even capable for you to do any of this stuff. You can't even run your own house. How you?" He like, "Look, if you can support me, if when I win, we'll all be sitting good." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "That counter development fund." I said, "So you are trying to get into the government for you to go steal?" But this is why it is. Why is it being handed? So there is no development program. Ellen then wanted to control everything. They took planning. That is a very major part of any country growing. They push it on a finance because they didn't want to release any money anywhere. They wanted to control everything in the same area. Planning need to be removed back from honor. It need to be reestablished. So the whole development fund, whether they increase it, whether they decrease it, it's a piggy bank for guys to hold money out of, to pay for their girlfriend's flight to go spend vacation, for themselves to pay for girlfriend or apartment, and then they keep the rest for them to campaign when campaign is coming. So the whole thing is all wrong. It would never work.
Thank you. Mr. Thier.
No, but can I say something about Mr. Tao said? Mr. Tao, some of the points you make are all right, but when you start with the premise, oh, the Constitution was wrong in the first place, you are absolving the culprits who making mistakes daily of any blame and guilt and responsibility. You're trying to give them a free pass. Oh, they think when I go, so what y'all doing? No, these people can do things today. Stop absolving these people of their guilt. Why do you do that? It will not help. They can do something. They empower today. Forget about all people who empowered before. They are empowered today, and why can't they do anything about it? So stop absolving them of their guilt.
Excellent point. That's why the process it evolves, the evolution. If something happens, it wasn't good, you are there now, you have the power of Mr. Shear. We have the late budget, things that you talk about, the different high schools, things that other people earmark. These guys are saying now, we are not going to fund it because we don't want you to go making need, you get morale, you come back and run against us. So we're cutting it down from 12 to 4, basically leaving nothing in the country. Mr. Sia, this is terrible.
You know, sadly, our country is not going anywhere anytime soon. We as a people, we're not ready yet. We don't have the kind of leaders we need who will lead us. And when it comes to financial management that is poor, we're not anywhere near any seriousness when it comes to financial management. Tao made a very good point. You say you're planning, you're allotting money for development in the country. What is the plan? Is it that outline that came from the Unity Party that they call the arrest agenda? Is that a plan for the country? Was it on that plan they told us about 285 yellow machines? Just from Liberia, I didn't see any. Some people told me they got some at the barrack. I mean, did you bring them to keep them at the barrack? We have horrible roads. And also you say you wanted to do something about it. Why are those machines not on the road every day? Look, let me make the broader point here. When it comes to development in our country, I'm not sure we even think how to really approach development in our country. We need a plan, a national plan. You understand? We need a plan that really will outline how much do we need, how long it's going to take us, how much, how do we get the money? We don't have anything like that. Now, even when you go to the county level, it is even frustrating. Now, when Ellen came, they came up with the idea of a county development fund. That is the fund that it has never been raised 100% in the first place. That's the one because of budget shortfall cannot get raised in the first place, right? And Joseph Boakai came, the first budget of Joseph Boakai all along it has been $200,000, $200,000 United States dollars for the development of each county.
Entire county.
The entire county, its development has been 200,000 United States dollars nearly throughout Ellen Johnson's lifetime. The people never got it. They never developed anything in the county. A few of those dollars were raised. It out left in the pockets of the very lawmakers. There's no accountability whatsoever. And Joseph Boakai came and reduced it from 200,000 to 186,000 in his first budget. Now, his second budget, I've now looked to see how much they have there. This is how you know these people don't mean well for the citizens of Liberia. Joseph Boakai increased money for NSA. Why? What is going on in Liberia? Do we have a cadre in Liberia? Who is even chasing him in that country? We are did the same thing. Look, when we talk about investigation in Liberia, anytime they announce investigation, that's the death of that case. Joseph Boakai said he was going to investigate NSA. He commissioned an audit, turned around, decommissioned the audit. Just from Liberia, the human suffering, the challenges that people go through, just with traffic alone in that tiny little town called Morovia. It is beyond belief. And you see the leaders, they are violating traffic rules. They are the key violators of the traffic rules. They will drive on the opposite lane 2 lane here, 2 lane. When they know that there's traffic here, they get on the opposite side and drive. Lawmakers, including president, ministers, that's what they do. So when you come to at the level of the law, because now, violating their own rules, that one is nothing. Look, the broader point I want to make here is that our country, we are where we are because we don't have leaders. I don't know when we'll get leaders. Mr. Bwaka is not a leader. He might be a leader. He can make that argument because he holds a leadership position. But I'm talking about leader acting consciously to improve the human condition of a people and moving the country forward. We have a president, Ethiopian Airlines, just to announce direct flight or non-stop flight. Our president shows up. Is he a busy man? Does he really know? Does he really know what he wants to do? You have people who are responsible for airport management. You have the Liberian Aviation Authority. They can't represent the government. The president have to go there. Somebody is trying to open a clinic, a renovated clinic. The president shows up. Is he busy? Is he a man of vision who wants to transform a country? Who shows up to an event like that? It tells you that he doesn't even have he's not looking at the bigger picture of the country. The man has not traveled to the county saying he got elected to talk to the people that elected him and tell them what he really wants to do. A leader should be on the radio in a country like Liberia because, look, I talked to Gregory Coleman, the police chief, and he told me, he says, yeah, it's difficult to work here. Very difficult. He said the way our people think is the national security race in this country. The way we think about things in this country, it is the national security race in this country. And he, as much as we all, majority of the people, the ordinary people, continue to think this way, we're not going nowhere. Anyone who is trying to do anything proper, they laugh at you. So how will you move the country? So Mr. Gamer, when it comes to budgeting that fund, all they're doing there is let's run the government the way it has been, people been running it. So just so people can think that we have a country where they're not changing anything, they're not improving anything. That's the sad story of Liberia.
Wow.
Anything, let me learn with this. Anything you see happening in Liberia right now, they roll from the Johnny Tucker Bridge to St. Paul Bridge. They're about to fix it because foreigners gave us money. The road from Freeport to Raylet that has been fixed is because Japanese foreigners gave us money and they fix it. The reason why we have ministerial complex today that Ellen can boast of, because foreigners gave us money. The reason why we have a little tiny terminal around $55 million, if I'm not mistaken, is because foreigners gave us money. Chinese gave us money. Let our people tell me any major project in our country being funded by the Liberian government wholly and solely. Name me one. If there's any, maybe that is sport park that George we have built and those little parks around there. But we're talking about meaningful projects that will give the people hope. None is being funded by our own government.
That Chinese project.
I can name
Chinese.
Dr. Booty.
Dr. Booty,
Dr. Booty, we talk about lace.
Dr. Booty coming in fun. Let him go.
Yeah, you come here. I know you will get to it. You end on this so we can go to the meat of the last one, which is money captains replacement. At LEC, and the Front Page Africa did a great analysis on the full gentleman.
Let me talk about Lace. Let's
go with Lace, and then we'll go from that Lace.
Okay.
Why reduce my Southtown school? Why?
Mr. C, I raised my hand to say that there is a project. There is a project that the government is funding, and it's called salaries, right? That's the government because almost 90% 90% of our annual budget goes to funding recurring benefits for officials of government, uh, benefits that make no sense, right? That Mr. Star was making a point, and I just wanted to give an example. So in 2012, the Senegalese government abolished its Senate to save money, right? So if we want to, that's an example of how we can try and save some money with regards to the legislature, because the Senate basically just they're collecting twice as much as the House of Representatives and doing nothing. So Senegal has done it. In Sierra Leone, they don't even have a Senate; they just have a House of Parliament that is a direct representation of the people. So you can manipulate the democratic process. Look, on the issue of Liz, right? And I like what Mr. C said. And he said something, and then he came back from it, but then he went back to it. He said, "Oh, the president is not a leader, but maybe he would call himself a leader because he occupies a leadership position." And then he talked about vision. And then I'm like, "Oh God, I thought you were going to lead a vision thing out so I can." That is the problem we have. We have a guy with no vision, right? He's not a leader. Okay, look, any one of us can be put in a leadership position. Doesn't make us a leader. We're just managers, right? A leader is someone that can inspire people. This man cannot even inspire a rat. If rat were running around your house, you tell the rat, let's go do something, and a rat will say no. This president that we have cannot inspire a rat. Rat that would say yes to anything. It will eat anything. He cannot inspire a rat. So we don't have a leader. And that is the problem that Liberia has. Look, people, Mr. Given make fun a lot about this. But governance is not easy. It's not everybody thing. It's not for everyone. These people criticize the previous government for years. Oh, they didn't do it one. They didn't do it one. They didn't do it one. Okay, you can't take it now. You'll rescue the country here. And then you'll take 12 months. And you still don't even know what you came to rescue us from or how to rescue us as a country. Look, and again, Mr. C made a good point. And the way he put it is not how I would put it. He said the president should go to the counties and talk to the people. No, go to the counties and listen to the people. Let them tell you what it is that they require. Let them tell you what is missing in Sasstown. Let them tell you what is missing in Butuo. Let them tell you what is missing in Bensonville. And then you supply what they need. You don't go and tell them, oh, this is what I want to do for you. No, that's not how a visionary leader leads. You go there and say, okay, Mr. Ismail, yes, you voted for me. Okay, or maybe you didn't vote for me, but you're a Liberian. I have to do for you. What do you need in your area here? So, oh, we need school. Okay, we'll pay you school. Oh, we need hemp pump. Okay, we'll pay you hemp pump. That's how you have vision. By talking to the people that you're leading, learning from them. But unfortunately, because we do not, and maybe this is where I might agree with Mr. Tower, just slightly, but I don't want to agree with him too much before he starts smiling. The check and balances that we have in our system of governance needs to be strengthened. The Liberian people, the ordinary Liberian people, do not understand the power that's in their hands. Them and only them can hold this government accountable. The longer they sit by the sidelines and be spectators whilst watching these guys plunder our country, plunder their country, mismanage their resources, and send this country down the drain, they're the ones that will suffer. Like Mr. Elvis Morris, my brother always says, I know he's listening, even though he's not here, he's taking a break. If they don't stand up for themselves, unfortunately for them, we talking about we in era where we sitting at comfortably. See, I said, when they chair, I said, no, long. I read I can lay down the twin. We sit in comfortable positions, right? We can talk as much as we want to talk, but we cannot change their lot. They have to stand up. They have to tell those 43, you have to go back and bring this oversight that Mr. Gaiman talking about. There has to be oversight on the executive. There has to be someone asking them, wait, why are you giving Liz only 4.7 million when it was 11? Why are you not increasing it to 30 million to build homes, schools, roads, and things for our people? This is community development fund. Why are we not getting, until the Liberian people can understand until they can, Mr. C made a good point about them being they are a national security threat because they don't understand the power that they carry. And until they can understand the power that they carry to hold these people accountable, Liberia will continue to go down the route we're going. And they're the ones, unfortunately, that will suffer.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We got one more topic to go, and this one, if you were ever in the Monrovia area, Mr. Sia just came back, so he would be a testament to electricity in Liberia. We talk about power, and now if you ever live in Liberia during the dry season, it's even worse. That there is no water to turn our turbine to create electricity. So what President Bouaga did was he came in and he decided that he was bringing in a new team, which I applaud him. I really like what he did by hiring and promoting from within, which is great. I love that. That if somebody works within an entity for 20, 25 years in all positions, when time comes, it doesn't make sense to go to Europe, go somewhere and bring somebody and put them over as though everything they have learned for the past 20, 25 years is not worth it. So Joseph Bouaga may have listened. Like my brother said, go to the folks and listen and see what the folks in that entity. He listened to them that we got capable people here at LEC that can surmount the podium here and do better. And he went and he nominated Mr. Gonkowan, that's his name, Thomas Gonkowan. He has been in that position, in that particular entity for over or close to 30 years. He also brought in Mr. Emil Kanger, who has served in different positions, and a guy by the name of Mr. Adele Shobayo. He been around for a long time. And then there was a name that came on by the name of Eric Augustine Fredericks. Fredericks is the name that is raising the red flag. Mr. Fredericks has no qualifications, but he's the choice of the Senate Pro Tem. So here we are, we have quality folks that are up front and I'm sure are capable of the job. And the fourth person who's supposed to be in charge of administration is somebody outside the rank, no managerial experience, no electrical engineering, no engineering degree, no degree at all. But my sister for Grand Bassa County wanted him there, so they put him there. So the question is, how does Liberia deal with its issue? How will we deal with our power issue? Mr. Sia, you just came from Liberia, so I always want to pick on you. Electricity is a major, major problem in the country.
And I experienced that firsthand, so I can speak to that. I don't know the technical details, but what people experience did in Liberia, I can speak to. As you are aware, I went there in Liberia. I'm currently an investor in my country. I started a business. There were a couple of days while in office, the LEC light will be cut off. I don't know the reason why they can cut it off. I don't know because they're trying to allow something to rest. I just don't know the reason, but I know usually they will cut it off. Now, some communities will go off for 6, 8 hours to a day and sometimes 2 days, depending on where you live. That is the situation there. So some people say that, well, they are trying to ration the current. So they serve this community for some time, and then they take it away, and they make sure another communities get some of the current. So it is something that is impacting the residents, the citizens in our country. And we are talking about Monrovia here for the most part. I understand that in Nimba, there's a private company, from what I understand, providing electricity there, and is much more reliable compared to what we are experiencing in Monrovia. When I was there in May of this year, what I experienced this time, it looks a little better. It was a little more regular. Where I live in the Dupo Road area, whenever the carrier, it will be like 4 hours to 5 hours, and it will come back. And sometimes it will stay overnight till like 6, 7 in the morning. And then now, but there are some communities where you don't have current at all. Like if you go to Brewerville, all that area, they don't have current, the LEC, many homes on that side are connected. Homes in Central Morovia, the Cinco area, Dupo Road area, coming to Rara FE, most of the communities are heavily connected by power. But there are other communities that are not connected at all. And some people don't have LEC, so they have to make provision like generator for them to have it. But those who have it, it is never regular, self-factoredly. And so there are times that people will be without power and they can't have, their refrigerator is not on, the fan is not on, the AC is not on. Sometimes they have to deal with it for hours and hours, and sometimes it never comes. And then the next day when they get it, so sometimes when they bring the power, you hear the noise from the excitement, whoa, because the power has returned to those communities and people are excited to have that. Now, let's contrast that with Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast have high reliable supply of electricity for generations now. They are black like us, they are African like us. I mean, why are they having coverage? Are they smarter than us? I would think the key there is leadership. The key there is people taking their responsibility serious, people recognizing the importance of power, and the leaders making intentional decisions that having stable electricity in this country is tied to our economy, is tied to the living standard of our people. And so we will make the necessary investment to ensure that the power here is stable. But in Liberia, what I see is more like a don't care attitude. Well, if people don't get current, man, they will understand. It's like our people are desensitized and they have now accepted poverty and human suffering, as normal in Liberia. And as Clark saw example is Franti Kofa saying, look, the way we've been appropriating the budget, we put a group of people in room, this at a hotel, and then they will be calling each ministry and agency head, say, look, we want to approve your budget, but you got to give us this is what you have for your allotment. We can approve it if only you can give us this. And the whole country heard that from the speaker confessing how they have been taking kickbacks. The people representatives been taking kickback to appropriate budget, indicting heads of government agency. And the people heard it and they did absolutely nothing. It's the same that when you pay for power, when you should have it, they cut it off and the people do nothing. And when the month ends, you have to pay. In fact, it's not by month end, it's how often or frequently you use your power. So if you pay for $10 power, if you use it in a week, it's gone. Sometimes it is not finished yet, but they can provide it for you when you should have it. They'll cut it off. And there's nothing that people can do about it. Say, well, we'll just wait. Anytime they bring it, that's it. How can you be paying for service and you're not getting the service and you think it's okay? Something is wrong with us. But that is the situation where the whole power business in Liberia.
Mr. Sia, before you leave, 1 minute, please. Mm-hmm. When I was looking at the budget, when I look at the more famous one, Mr. Patrick Hunter, mm-hmm. his generator, he got $3,600 a month. Mm-hmm. Okay, just for the generator. Mm-hmm. Joseph Worker got $368,000 for the year for electricity generator, according to him. So mm-hmm. all these agencies, these people, lawmakers are getting $3,200, $3,600 a month. So what incentive do they have to bring electricity when they operate their own fiefdom?
And that is another thing, how come the individuals are receiving these kind of amounts for generator? Why can't we put that money in the LEC so that the electricity can be stable? We have, significant power supply in Ivory Coast. If we can now, we can move the power, and then all LEC have to do now is to distribute and pay for it. All right. So the government should be able to set money aside so that they can pay for electricity because there's so much power in Ivory Coast. All you have to do is move it to Liberia and make sure you pay. And that's what the CDC are trying to do, but they couldn't keep up with it because according to Samuel 12, they couldn't raise the money. At some point, they have to come up with $9 million. And he said, well, we're waiting for the rainy season. When the rainy season comes, then this, that, and all that, right? So, I mean, if they can't find $9 million and they can't distribute the power, then I don't know why they're giving the people. Because if you find it difficult to raise the money to make the power that you have a bit available, distributed, and to keep it stable, why are you providing generator for these individuals? It's because they know that they don't want to prioritize what is how to prioritize. So they are making provision for the government officials, the big shots, so that during the period of misery, they will be comfortable, signifying that they don't care about the ordinary person. And this is sad.
Mr. Eastman, I know you were one of
Yes.
those guys who getting your $3,600 a month plus. Don't forget now, they're getting $1,900 for housing allowance. Man living in his own house, and they get you $2,000 a month for housing. Multiply that by 12 months, $24,000 extra coming to you for housing when you live in your own house. Mr. Eastman, where do we go? What is the future? You work in that industry. What is the future for Liberia when it comes to LEC?
It is astounding that we allow ourselves to give these guys fabulous salaries, more than doctors and other professionals in the entire country, and then pay for their fuel consumption.
And where to sleep.
It's mind-boggling, this thing that's going on in Liberia. It's mind-boggling. The way I can always laugh at Mr. Tower, you know why I can always laugh? Those people who are in legislature were not even getting a fraction before. And today, look at what they're getting. But nobody talking about it. Look, the electricity issue is one thing all by itself. We only have about 88 megawatt available for consumption. That when peak period hits, in other words, when everybody home, they're turning on their light, watching TV, it's not enough to support the 88 megawatts, not enough to support the entire grid. So what we have to do, the 80 megawatts come from hydro, which is the cheapest way of producing electricity. But we've been talking about this Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast uses natural gas. Most of it, only about 70% is natural gas, 20% is hydro. So we always been in an advantage. We were not made very high consumers, so we were just depending on our hydro. But now we have outgrown that hydro, completely outgrown that hydro, and we need more capacity to support the grid. The only other thing to do support the grid is to bring on either you start with new renewable sources like solar, like wind turbine, or you use thermal. Like what Ivory Coast do, either burn natural gas or burn fuel oil. We have we used to have about two or three plants in Bushra Island that were capable of producing how many was 15 each, but that's fuel. So anytime you bring in fuel generation, you kind of driving the cost of the producing power up. So the idea is we're not producing enough. What can we do to solve it? I'm not going to try to even begin to solve it here because this requires a scientific study, okay? But we've allowed ourselves to drift into this place where it's hard to return. We're not always like this. We're ahead of the game. We started that program. We were part of that program that said the CLNG. We developed the plans for it. That what we were going to do, though, we're going to build staggered dams along the St. Paul and one other Kavala River, I believe. And that way we'll be able to provide more power to the grid. And we, even if during the rainy season, we'll even sell it to Iowa Guinea or anywhere else, just like what they're doing. But the war came, all of our plans been scattered. But some, I think Mr. Booty was saying, what are the plans now? And somebody who's sitting out in air conditioning, weeping for their air conditioning, giving them flowers, they don't have the incentive to do anything in a hurry. It's fine with them, you know.
Thank you.
So until we make it uncomfortable for them, and this is, I mean, this is a clarion call for all. We have to make it equally uncomfortable for them. They're not supposed to go on the left side of the road and drive because the traffic jam. The traffic jam, fix the road so all of them can go. Not because you be. Who made these people gods? Why are we allowing? And they're not helping. At least if they're doing something great, they were bringing Liberia up. They were bringing the citizens up. They were providing more schools, more hospitals, and they were doing something. You say, yeah, okay, I deserve it. But do nothing, people. They would pin them, and then they're taking advantage of us on top of it. I think that we need to. What Dr. Booty said? What country they told them they say, oh, we're done. It's Senegal, right? So my man, y'all go home. We'll be saving $500 million right away.
That's right. That's right.
Yo,
Well,
thank you
thank you very much. We got 10 minutes here, guys. So let's stick to the 2 minutes. Dr. Booty, if you're giving me I'm from well, you're in London, that you're in your apartment, you get a job in Parliament. I won't ask you what's your mortgage or anything. I say you get 24,000 off the top. That's for you, for where you sleep. And then for your utility, we're gonna give you $3,600 per month. Multiply that by 12 months. That's on us. We're gonna give you a scratch card. We're gonna give you car. We're gonna give you gas. What incentive do you have to go out there and say we need electricity for all? I mean, we went to referendum to reduce even term limit. They fought tooth and nail and defeated the government referendum. Dr. Booty.
Well, the question, the simple answer to your question is none. There is no incentive, right? If I'm shocked to hear at LTA, one of their interim or acting co-deputy governors will be getting $3,600 a month for a generator. That's just stupidity, right? And again, I was just looking at something now. My generation, the millennials, are the most disengaged with politics. And I think this, because if you look at, I know we don't have Mr. Nangwe on the show today, but if you look at what the progressives did, they basically said that, no, this is not the way we want our government to run. No, this is not the way we want the country to go. This is not the direction. We want the country to go in this direction. And we're willing to get in the streets. We're willing to protest. We're willing to push and pull until you listen to what we have to say, because we are the future of the country. Joseph Boakai in the future, how long Joseph Boakai will live? No. He already close to the grave. He ain't far from there already, So the future of the country is sitting by, and they're so disengaged. They're not questioning what is going on in their country. Mr. Eastman made a good point, right? We've had years, and I want to take it slightly away from Joseph Boakai. Yes, we can put the Civil War there and say, look, we're fighting for a period of time. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf had millions, if not billions of dollars. She could have built a couple more dams if she wanted to, right? She could have invested in solar energy. Recently, they launched some Bawati solar farm in Liberia. There, how far it will go, nobody even know. How many megawatt or whatever it can produce, nobody can know. All we know is solar farm that the president went there again, go caught ribbon. And like Mr. C was saying, he went to caught ribbon. When he had nothing since October. Because at the end of the day, we cannot live in a country. Look, I'm not a political leader, but as an ordinary human being, I get on the train. I use the train a lot in the UK. And as I'm riding the train around, I see solar farm. And we don't even get that much sun in the UK. But I see solar farms. You see acres and acres and acres of solar farms. You go to people's homes. The government here is giving people incentive. Fidel, when you put solar panels over your house, man, and then whatever power you don't use, you push it back into the grid, and then we'll pay you for it. That's how you empower people, right? What is the incentive in Liberia? To tell people, look, get solar on top of your house, and whatever you don't use, that way, because if Mr. Eastman, Mr. See, Mr. Gaming, we all get solar panel oil out. Then when the LEC, then the current that we supposed to use now, we pass it on to somebody else. Those are the visionary ideas. There are a lot of wealthy people in Liberia. The so-called government officials, instead of giving Patrick Honor 3,600, take 10,000. You post it, say you're stupid enough to say we need to pay for a current, no problem. Just put solar panels over a house. The rest of that money, you can save it to do something else with it. He will get a current that he wants, and the rest of the LEC that he's not supposed to be using, that can go to the ordinary Liberian pool. But they said it's like you sit down sometimes, you think to yourself, how is it stupid person like me can think about a thing, and then man I get 40 some year of government experience, he can think about like how can I think about it and he doesn't, right? But like you said, there is no incentive, and the Liberian people are stupid. The Liberian people are disengaged. The Liberian people don't care, and they will keep wasting their money. Me, I'm paying tax in Liberia. Like you, Mr. C, Mr. Given, that you're investing, that you're taxing, they eating. But only eating it, so me, I get that. Let them keep eating your taxes
for free. Mr. Tower, 2 minutes here. Electricity, that's your area. We're not going anywhere. If, to be honest with you, if somebody in the United States would pay me $3,600 per month, per year, multiply that by year, that's a lot of money. Why would I say I'm going to give that money back to somebody so everybody else can get life? What's the incentive?
Yeah. Okay. Look, to answer that question, we are here wondering whether the other people are smarter than us, whether why
they are smarter than you,
and all of this stuff. Yeah, the people in Ivory Coast and stuff like that. And somebody posted something here that we inherited a colonial imperialistic system that don't belong in that area. Look, we speak here, people want to point out, oh, the other African country. Man, I follow up on everything on Africa. All the African countries that took over the same system and they try to maintain, they're struggling. No group of people in this world govern themselves based on the rules and regulations and cultural stuff of other people. It is not possible. So, yep, he posted this, the guy that posted it. But look, I see Dr. Booty would be like, I want to agree with you. It's not whether you agree with me. What I'm saying here is that you guys are trying to deal with the same old thing that is not working. I'm saying let's look at this differently. Let's come to the power stuff. Let me give you a historical background of the power stuff because Mr. Eastman wanted to tell me that I should leave the people that were back there. The foundation is wrong. You know what the problem is with that power? You know Taylor Mayer? Taylor Mayer was the first electrical engineer of Liberia. In 1960, when they decided that they wanted a second dam that was going to be bigger, so they were going to build this dam. He was the head of the PUA in Liberia. The feasibility study was done, and the dam was supposed to be built near bomb mines, where the actual waterfall and that could generate over 100 and something megawatts. Taylor Major left, went into that area because I'm trying to explain where our problem is and the kind of foundation that the so-called founding fathers set that this country is still struggling with. He went in there for him to try to buy that land from the people. They refused. So he came all the way down to where the current is weak. It's the wrong area. He bought that area. He supervised the project. They built it. You know that place was leased. It's owned by Taylor Major, was leased to the government. So this is what the Congo boys were doing. This is what's bad. Look, we can sit here all day and think that somebody's trying to hit somebody. So that place was leased. The dam was built in the wrong place. But what happened? He was trying to build it so that he can lease it on a land that he will buy and he own. Just like all the ministries and everything was done. They will go ahead. They didn't do anything in the interest of the country. This is the bad foundation that the country is still running on. The corruption, the short-sightedness, lack of vision. That is what you see over there. So that where that dam was built was not even the right place. Okay, So that's why. So we built it, and at its max, supposed to be 88 megawatt. It was built in the wrong place. But then let's fast forward. The dam was destroyed. When it was time to build it, there was enough money that Labrador could raise to build it. But what happened? This is a World Bank project. Look in Labrador and look at all the World Bank projects, their failures. By the way, you need to know that LEC is privatized. LEC, just like the port, is quasi-privatized. So the government, even trying to sit in LEC, is double dipping. That is why a lot of things are expensive. Through the debt forgiveness, you see, we don't want to look at the history. Through the debt forgiveness, that is how the country was required to give up this thing. There is a whole analysis that you can go, a study that have been done. The debt forgiveness was just a trap. The countries who debt was forgiven and participated in it went back into debt faster and strangulated more than because it was something where you go in, you turn over your money-making institutions and resources or installations. So if you had them in your hands and you could service the debt, but they forgive the debt, now you lose these areas. And in order for you to run, because this is one of the reasons Labrador depend on loan, in order for you to function, you can't function, so you must not go back to the World Bank and the IMF to borrow every time for you to run, because the areas that you have that were generating money, you don't have them anymore because you were part of some program. So this is what we are seeing here. You know that Mount Coffee, the feasibility study was done. Christopher Neonen was part of that stuff. I saw him on this stuff here early this year. He was trying to justify that $17,000 paid to Money Captain is right because he's the CEO of LEC. But because he himself, they benefited from that stuff. That's a $1 billion project. It was $500 million for the feasibility study to refurbish the dam, which they could have left and gone to the right place to build that dam. They didn't do that. And then $500 million to then renovate it. Guess what? It didn't work. And I will tell you really quick before I can close. You know why it didn't work? It was intentional. You're talking about all the high salaries. We don't want to point out the right stuff so that we can have clarity of our problem. So that then we can say, okay, look, this is the issue. How do we start and where do we move? This was intentional. The US, along with their European cousins, decided to what? Subsidize the budget. Subsidize projects so that they allow Ellen them to pass all those stuff by giving all these exorbitant salaries because they knew it would come to an end and we arrive at this point that we are in so that you are strangulated. You have no money. Everything is tied down into salaries and benefits. This is where we are. So no. Listen, I have a couple of other things because it's very important on the.
It's 6 o'clock. We gotta go. But let me give you one more minute. Go ahead, 1 minute. We gotta go.
So that is what happened with the stuff. Then instead of Labrador trying to fix it, you know that the power coming from Ivory Coast. It's not an Ivorian stuff specifically. It's a European French-based company to tie you back into that power. I don't know if you've read the stuff. Whether you use that power or not, you owe a minimum balance that then take away money from you to ever be able to put in. That is why George Redden had to give up on it. So it would never work. The solar stuff is not worth it. The solar stuff is another $100 million stuff that they're trying to do now. It was a work, I've been saying it here since last year, that we should watch out for that. They're trying to trap Liberia into another debt that it would not work. We can take that 100 million, we can build 2 to 3 dams. But they're going to say the open, you need 5 acres for every megawatt. You will need about 1,000 or so acres of land for you to even produce any meaningful power. Solar is not dependable. It is ineffective. It is not. There are so many. Yes. I don't enough study solar. There are so many factors to it. It can be part of when you have enough power, but you can't take 100 million. They need to take the 100 million.
Okay.
They need to take the 100 million.
Mr. Tower, let's wrap it up. We passed our time.
Let me. Can I give my closing?
1 minute. 1 minute. I'm coming. Let's go around for 1 minute of closing. Mr. Isma, your 1 minute closing, man. We're 4 minutes after our closing time.
Yeah.
1 minute, please.
I like to deal with. Okay, thank you. I like to deal with problems that we have today. And instead of going in the clouds like Mr. Tower does, talk about things okay, if it was fundamentally wrong, why we don't change it? That's all I'm talking about. And I say leave them. I'm saying deal with the present in the past. You are trapped in the past. I don't know why, because we got a lot to do. But I would figure as an engineer, you're thinking in the future. Live in the present. Change your present. You cannot change the past, Mr. Tao. Let's move ahead. But our country, we need the things that need to be done unless we get proper leaders, just like Dr. Booty was saying. Until we get real, honest Liberians who are actually committed to changing Liberia and not taking advantage of us, we'll be like this. We'll be inside for a while. How to say we're still on inside. That's my closing.
Thank you. Dr. Booty.
Yeah, thank you so much. Look, I would disagree with the comment by Mr. Clinton and what Mr. Tao talked about. Look, it is the individual, right, that are the issues, not the laws. The laws are not imperialistic, right? The law says in Article 33 and 49, the speaker presides, right? It's not the law that told the 43 to go act stupid. It wasn't the law. It was the 43 that went and started acting stupid, right? If the system and the law are so bad, and we got the right leader in place right now, then Joseph Boyka will be trying to change the law, like Mr. Eastman said. Look, the individuals that came to Liberia in 1822 that formed the government had an issue, or they had issues. It's not one-sided. Indigenous Liberians resented the American Liberians. American Liberians had their issues, and those have gone by. Liberia can be fixed now. These people came to rescue us. Let them rescue. They can't say that Charlie King thing that happened, that won't make it, they can't able to rescue us. Let them rescue. Give us a vision. Look, if the vision is failing, we can understand because there is a vision. They say, oh, here are the obstacles to why the vision is not taking effect. But there is no vision. You can't build a house without a plan, right? You cannot build a house without a plan. Show us the plan for building this house, and then say, oh, but at the rain season, make it wind go to the roof level. Yeah. Then we'll say, okay, that's true. We got a plan there. You know, say, oh, because cement price high, that why we go to the roof level. We'll say, oh, yeah, that's true. Cement price high. But no plan. And then you keep beaming the law. And not one day we've asked you thousands of times, give us an alternative to democracy. Give us an alternative. You say, oh, go back. During the time we had chiefs and things, and that they were more corrupted than even the democracy will get now. They were taking people, women, and one chief get 15 women and stealing all the people land and doing all the. So what, Mr. Tawa, I beg you, next time come with something tangible. Guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm going to go off now. Mr. Steer, it was nice seeing you today. Hopefully, we'll see you next Sunday.
On our close. You need to stay on
I'm not saying off my close.
Mr. Tawa, 1 minute now. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah.
So Mr. Steer,
what happened here?
We got to go at 7 after. Go ahead. 1 minute.
Mr. Eastman and Dr. Booty, they're saying that I'm not coming up with what is wrong in the plan. Okay, now you agree with me that the foundation is wrong, and I'm saying
no, I didn't agree. I never agreed.
Okay, so now
I said individual.
I'm saying, but yeah, the law is imperialistic government that we have. A government
not the
that
law,
was
the
formed,
individual.
listen, don't interrupt me. A government that was formed without the inclusion of the people, not of the people that make up 99% of the country were ever consulted, the way they live, how they were governed. Look, you are shaking your head.
But don't change the law. The 99% changed the law in 1986.
Self-denial. There is no dignity.
No, but in 1986, the 99% changed the law.
We got Mr. Dr. Tower. We're going to end the
You're not taking facts, Mr. Tower. You're not taking facts.
Mr. Tower, let's go close so we can go.
So that is how the government was formed. I'm saying now that we need to go back and look at the government and the structure that we have. This is where the discussion should be moving. Let's look at the Constitution. Let us set up committee, talk to the people, the local people, and see how governing everything was done. From there, draw up new rules, ways in which we are going to be governed. Abolish the entire legislature. It is not needed. Look, I will close with this. When China, 1949, when they threw out the American, the French, and all these people, you know what they did? They closed school. Mao said there is no dignity in somebody being able to be a physicist when they don't know who they are. They introduced a cultural revolution. What it was, they took the people that were going to be the future of that country. They sent them back into the villages and town. Go learn from them to know who the Chinese is. 7 years. They came back. One of them today is the president, Xi Jinping. They had to go back and they had to redo everything based on their culture, their tradition. It is out of that they drew up what was going to guide them later for them to arrive at where they are.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll bring you all one on what we're doing. Mr. Sia, take us home.
Yeah. Mr. Sia.
Yes, gentlemen, thank you. Great discussion. Mr. Tower, I too have my own disagreement with you. You know, to hold our woes to the fact that there were too many, blunder in the past, the foundation was not done right, and that's why we continue to suffer. I in as much as I agree that things could have been done better, a solid foundation could have been built, but not because we didn't have a great foundation. Many, you're talking about in the 1800s, yeah. And this country has existed for over 177 years. So you won't tell me we didn't get it right from the first year all the way to 100 from, in 77, the past 77 years, we can't still get it right. That's a long time, right? So here's the thing. There is a football team in England called Manchester City. It was founded in 1880, and it has been around. But it did not win the European Champions League. I'm not saying that the European Champions League started in 1880. Not until it got a coach called Pep Guardiola. I'm talking about leadership here. When he took over the club, he provided leadership, increased the fan base of Manchester City. And they went as far as winning the European Champions League, the biggest league competition in Europe. This is a football team that started in 1880. Because the first final did not do well, so you are saying that Manchester City will not do well. With leadership, they captured the European Champions League, which is a big competition that they won. We can do the same. Every country, including the United States and even Great Britain, they had their own issue from their founding. There is no country without blunders, mistakes in its founding. But the leaders continue to make adjustments all along. And then the issue about laws. The laws we have in Liberia are not perfect, but if we were respecting our laws, we would be one of the best countries in Liberia. For example, we have a law called the Code on Cordon Law. I like to go to it. I've read it over 4 times. I like that law. It's beautiful, the rating. They said before an official can take office, you must declare your asset. If the president renominate that person to another position, when you changing position to the other, you must declare your asset. If you are leaving government, you must declare your asset. That's what the law says. And the laws even empower the executive branch that does the appointment, that when the individual fail to declare their asset, you can suspend them for failing to do so. You can withhold their salary for failing to do so. You can stop them from traveling for failing to do so. Is that a good law? Why are they not obeying it? You want to tell me they're not obeying it because people in the 1870s didn't obey the laws? That what stop people from today from obeying the law when they have the education that this is a law that is meant to be obeyed? Is that the argument you want us to have? So just because the free port of Monrovia was not built properly or was built in the wrong place, does it stop us from bringing another free port in Grand Creek County, where you have the natural harbor between Sasta and Grand Cess, where the sea is always calm? Does it stop us? Are you telling us that because Rabat International Airport came about because the Americans were they were fighting World War and they wanted in a place, that would be shorter for them to get to Japan and long. So they built a little airstrip, so it must be like that. We can't change it? Is that what you're telling me? Look, things were done in the past, they were wrong, we can correct them today. Other countries are doing it. Let us do that. Let's start making our excuse or those excuses. It will not get us anywhere. I rest my case.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. It is Sunday, 4 o'clock on the East Coast. It is on point. And we have the most dedicated, the most informed, the most experienced analyst here. Mr. Sear, thank you very much. Mr. Eastman, Dr. Booty, and Mr. Tao will see you next Sunday. As always, Mr. Engineer, if you can take us out, no matter where you come from, we are all Liberian. Thank you very much for tuning in. Will you take us out? There you go. Where is he? Where's our...
We are Liberian.